الله أكبر. ربنا لك الحمد. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
خيبر خيبر يا يهود. لا 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 لا
from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. When a land has been occupied for more than 75 years, when a land has been suffering for more than 75 years, when a land has been facing massacres and genocide for more than 75 years, we have a right to say, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Free, free Palestine!
Free Palestine!
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 Look around at how many people are here! One thing is we have thousands of people spread all the way back to the tram tracks. Can everyone try to bunch into the square more? Move this way. If you can, there's heaps of room back here so we can fit more people in here. There's still thousands, I'm sure, on their way, coming here today to fight for Gaza and fight for Palestine. So if we can get everyone to move further into the square this way, that'll mean thousands more can fit in and can hear us properly. Thank you. Okay, we're nearly ready to get things underway here. Just keep moving in. All right, keep moving in if you can. We're going to get things underway now. So our first speaker today is very important because we know that we're meeting here, we're protesting here on stolen Aboriginal land. We know the history of Australia, the history of this place is also one of genocide, is one of brutal colonisation, is one of racism, and that racism continues today. We see it everywhere, and waged against Indigenous people. The Black Deaths in custody, the ongoing stolen Aboriginal land, the mining companies doing what they do to Indigenous people, the racism spewed by our politicians, the same people that support Israel, support racism against Indigenous people here in this country. So in a minute we're going to get underway with our first speaker. There's something I just need to say before we have that acknowledgement of country. Now we know, and I talked about this in our big, very awesome, peaceful protest we held last Sunday. We know that the authorities are looking for excuses to deny us the right to protest. We know that's the case. We know they want to crack down on any movement in solidarity with the Palestinian people. We've had 2 weeks of systematic dehumanisation of the Palestinian people. They want to ignore the suffering in Gaza. Worse, they want to justify the suffering in Gaza. They do that by calling the Palestinian people animals, terrorists, criminals. Shame on them, and shame on the Australian media to repeat these lies. Part of that dehumanisation is about a racist attack here against Arabs and Palestinian people and Muslims in this country. We're seeing all the racist crap of the war on terror come back writ large now in this moment, the way they want to portray our protesters for Palestine. Now it's very important that we reject that we stand up against that. We're not going to be cowed, we're not going to be silenced. When there's a genocide going on in Gaza, we're not going to be silenced, we're going to speak up about that. And that's what we're doing today. And today, as we know, we have won the right and we will be marching. We'll be marching on the streets singly. So we're going to be marching from here to Belmore Park later on. Now, it's very important. We know that the media, again, wants to portray us as though we are here to protest against Jews. That is a lie. The movement for Palestine has always been a movement for liberation, an anti-racist struggle, a fight for equality. That's what we're fighting for. And we're here to fight against the state of Israel, a brutal apartheid genocidal state led by war criminals. That's what we're here to protest against. So we need to reiterate again, no forms of racism, anti-Semitism included, absolutely. These things are not welcome in our protests, they're not welcome in our movement, they've never been part of our movement. And we know there are many Jewish people in the world who bravely stand with the Palestinian people. We've seen that recently in protests in the United States, blocking Washington to stand with Palestinians, and we're going to see that again today when we have again a speaker from Jews Against the Occupation addressing us today. So that's crucial today. We don't want anyone getting it up front at our protests. We also need to remember to be disciplined. You know, we want the right to protest. That means today we can't have things like flares, no burning of flags, any of that stuff going on. And as we said last Sunday, we're asking people, unless it's for medical or religious reasons, please do not cover your faces. The reason for that is, again, we know that there could be people who come here who aren't part of our movement, trying to cause trouble. You know, it's harder for them to do that if we know who they are and if we can see who they are. Okay, so...
Free, free Palestine! 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 Free, free Palestine!
To first introduce myself in my mother's tongue. اسمي أصالة سيارة مولودة في بيت لحم. أصلي من خراص الخليل، من أرض الوطن، من وطن السلام ووطن الحرية. I was born in the city of Bethlehem. I'm originally from the southwest of Hebron, a village called Kharas. We want to start probably thanking you. We may have to thank you or may not have to thank you, but I will thank you for your bravery and your courage. Today there's an overwhelming feeling of helplessness. And that's what they want us to feel. They want to make us feel helpless. But today, we have come in thousands to tell them that we will not feel helpless. Today, we have come to tell the world that we stand in the right side of justice. We stand in the side of humanity. I would like to first introduce our first speaker, Linda Coe, who is a Wurundjeri warrior. Please welcome Linda!
my brothers and sisters, you are welcome here. You are welcome on the soils of the Gadigal. You are welcome on the soils of Wiradjuri. You are welcome every single piece of soil in this country. And I love you, my sister. Don't let apartheid destroy us, because that's what their intent, what their agenda is to destroy us, for a regime of elimination to continue to assault us, our bodies, our lands, our spirits, every single inch of who we are. But our minds, our spirits are free, and we will continue to fight. I stand here alongside my elder today, Auntie Shirley, and with the Black Caucus. Our people have seen governments come and go for 200 years, but we have been here since the first sunrise. And we will see the next government come and go, and this wave of justice will continue to grow, will continue to surge until we wipe out our enemy. Settler colonialism has not only destroyed our people, it is destroying our planet. It is pillaging all of our natural resources. It is pillaging all of our animals, our plants, the insects. All living beings have a right to exist outside of violence. Let us come together in love and our shared humanity, our shared struggle. I love you, always was, always will be Palestinian land.
Can you hear me? My name is Auntie Shirley. I've just spent the morning with my severely autistic son, and they belong to this country's hidden shame because their disabilities are so profound they cannot vote. But I was disturbed by what happened on TV. I'll just start off this way. In the beginning, the Creator, Biami, Allah, God, whatever you want to call it, greatest gift to mankind was the gift of life. But ever since that time, in the name of religion or whatever God, people have been killing each other. When is it going to stop? And then we have an opposition leader, a very weak man, right? Daring to play games with people's lives. And so it's time for him, as Richard Bell, my brother, would say, you can go now and take them two black settlers with you. You know who I'm talking about, of course, but their names aren't worth mentioning. But as the young lady here said, we've already had the frontier wars in this country. We've had segregation. We've been there. We've done all that. And we're still here. But what I know people understand history is that the Afghan people were responsible for opening up the desert in the Northern Territory, and they married Aboriginal women, just like the rest of us. So don't ask how black I am, ask how black you are. Because when the fleet came, there weren't many women on it. And black fellas, we're sick and tired of being done over, especially by our own people. But my loyalty is to the profoundly disabled. And when I saw that brave doctor who took the Hippocratic oath to save lives, then have to go and son. That is disgusting. And then you hear all these so-called world leaders talking about what team they're on. There's only one team, and that's Team Humanity. And I just can't believe that people would do that to one another. This is a country that has had the frontier wars, apartheid. I was born in a black ward, so nothing changes for us blackfellas. But let me tell you, in spite of what happened at the weekend, whether you voted yes or no, we will still be here. And no political party-os are balanced to power in this country. Us blackfellas hold that. Nobody else. So don't think in spite of the weekend, because let me tell you, the marches start now, and the key to everything is the stolen generations. And these people are so proud. We've had genocide. You can't kill children. That is so wrong. And we will not stand by and let it happen. I can't march with you today because I'm too old, but I do have a voice. And so this blue is for autism, because I believe autistic kids have been groomed over there. But a human life is precious. And these people. But they ought, first of all, before they big know themselves, recognise the contribution that your people have paid to this country in the beginning, from the Afghan Cavaliers to today, right? And as a member of the stolen generations, I'll leave you with three little words. Who's sorry now? Not us blackfellas. We haven't even warmed up.
Always was, always will be Aboriginal land! Always will be! Always was, always will be! Always was, always will be! Alright, and we just got a quick message as well from Auntie Rhonda Dixon, who's a Gadigal warrior from this country. She couldn't be here today, but she sends a message to us. She says, "My heart goes out to you and your people. I'm so sorry for the destruction of your country and the massacre of your people. They are doing to your people what they did to mine, genocide." She says, "I'm sorry, I'm not in Sydney, but she will be here next week protesting with us again." Yours in solidarity, Auntie Rhonda. Alright, once again I would ask if people can't squish in any more this way. There's still room back here, and there's thousands of people back there, so if people can squish over, that would be a big help. Alright, our next speaker is Amal Nassar. She is an organiser from the Palestine Action Group. You might have seen her on the media in the last couple of weeks, giving it to the journalists, telling the truth, telling truth to power. So she's going to talk to us more about the situation now.
I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of this land, the Gadigal people, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I would also like to extend my respects to First Nations people with us today, including the Black Caucus, who came here with a beautiful contingent in solidarity. And they have demonstrated the long-standing Black Palestinian solidarity on this very continent and the solidarity of Indigenous people resisting settler colonialism globally. Sovereignty was never ceded, and this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. And like Palestinians, white Australia ruthlessly colonised and stole this land where we are engaging on today, and continues to engage in a brutal genocide to annihilate the native inhabitants. From Black Australia to Palestine, genocide is a crime. Over 1,500 Palestinian children have been murdered. Over 4,000 Palestinians have been murdered, and that is only the numbers that have been accounted for. There could be up to 10,000 Palestinians murdered by the settler colonial imperialist regime that is Israel. Hospitals, schools, refugee camps have been bombed. Palestinians have been threatened with complete annihilation, and Western governments are still shamefully defending Israel. To the outside, pro-imperialist, pro-colonial world, the violence only starts when the bombs and the guns come out. But let me be clear, Palestinians live in violence every single day. The state was established on violent ethnic cleansing and the expulsion of 80% of the population. That is violence. The ethno-nationalist Zionist ideology is central to the state of Israel and entrenches apartheid. That is violence. The occupation is violence. The siege on Gaza is violence. Hamas or no Hamas, there will always be violence because violence is an entrenched feature of the state of Israel. Violence is an entrenched feature of imperialism and settler colonialism. And Israel's every action is a stark example of what empire means. There is no ceasefire for the Palestinian people. Every day is war. And for the pro-Israel and colonial West, they just want Palestinians to be passive victims to these violent structures. But that is not peace. So we are not here just calling for a ceasefire, calling for this outburst of violence to end. We are opposing all forms of violence, from the occupation to apartheid to the siege. For peace, these violent structures inherent to Zionism must be dismantled at every inch, from the river to the sea. So when Western governments have been giving impunity for Israel's occupation, ethnic cleansing, ongoing colonialism, apartheid, settler programs in the West Bank for 75 years, and this week governments around the world have green-lighted genocide, even when Israel is telling the world they'll be bombing hospitals, and that they did. This is not because these world leaders don't understand what's happening. It is not them exceptionalizing Israel, and it is not them cowering to the pressures of some lobby. This is them upholding empire. This is them doing exactly what they need to do to protect global US empire. Western imperialism to function needs Israel. Western settler colonialism to function needs Israel. Israel's systems and structures were exported from the United States, were exported from Australia, whether it's in the treatment of Indigenous people right here on this land, or the violence that we perpetuate in the third world, from West Papua to Iraq to Vietnam. In fact, we question why Arabs were so dehumanized this week around the world. Our deaths were necessary for security, our blood was not mourned, and we were the barbaric, violent savages. This is the exact rhetoric that has been exported from Australia and settler colonies around the world that was used to justify massacring the native, to justify stealing their children, to justify police brutality, and to justify the ongoing violence they face on this very country from this cruel state. Empire is working hand in hand together to achieve its goal, where we become passive victims to their violent structures that they demand be imposed around the world. And to that, Indigenous people on this colony and the people on Gaza has showed us that we will not become passive victims. This is not an option, and we will stand strong until liberation. And I also mentioned the third world, because if we remember, so-called progressive leaders have been lowering their heads in shame after cheerleading the war in Iraq and the war in Vietnam. And as the genocide in Gaza only begins, we are seeing these very leaders cheerlead this genocide, providing no condemnation for Israeli atrocities and actively supporting it. But we will not thank them when their rhetoric starts to shift over the next few weeks. We will not thank them as they start supporting humanitarian aid, not for the sake of Palestinians, but for their Western conscience as they perpetuate the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And we will not thank them in a decade when they start marking days to commemorate this atrocity. Our government has the blood of Palestinian men, women, and children on their hands. Our government has the power to mobilize members of the And we will continue to march and march and march and march until we force the hands of our leaders, as was done in the 60s and now apartheid in South Africa. Our solidarity must not end here with Palestine. We must stand with the people of West Papua who are facing a genocide at the hands of the Indonesian and Australian government, where they describe Australia to be the Israel of the Pacific. We must stand with Black Australia in all their struggles in opposition of the ongoing genocide, police brutality, land theft, and over 500 deaths in custody since 1991. And when we are not marching, we need to see support from the current Labor government, who has made it clear that they have a party of colonialism, they have a party of empire, and they have a party of genocide. We will, at the next and all elections, back the Greens, who have stood in solidarity with the Palestinians for a long time. And are the only members in Parliament who have called for a ceasefire and called what is happening this week a genocide. Long live Palestine. Okay, I'm going to say a chant and I want everyone to follow it with my head's like spinning. You're supporting genocide. So what I'm going to say, follow it with you're supporting genocide, okay? Albanese, you can't. You're supporting genocide. Penny Wong, you can't. You're supporting genocide. Biden, you can't. You're supporting genocide. Albanese, you can't. You're supporting genocide. Albanese, you can't. You're supporting genocide. Thank you. Thank you, Amai. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Okay, everyone, I know that you can be much louder than that. I want to hear your voices. Long live Gaza! Long live Gaza! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! From the river to the sea! 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 Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Gaza, Gaza, don't you cry! Palestine will never die! 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 In the span of less than 13 days, the Israeli occupation has murdered more than 4,000 Palestinians. Shame! Among those victims are children, are babies, mothers, grandfathers, doctors, nurses, lawyers, and grandmothers. Shame! They are so devoid of humanity. They call themselves the most moral army in the world. Shame! They are far from morality. They are far from morality. To the point to which they did not stop to spare our places of worship. They bombed churches, they bombed mosques, they bombed hospitals. Shame! Shame! This is not a new crisis. This is a decade of occupation. They are
targeting Palestinians with the aim of erasing our existence. Shame. But we Palestinians will continue to exist. We Palestinians will continue to be resilient. Across the world, we have borne to witness the images that have flooded from our phones. But what about their voices? What about their voices? In Gaza, the communication is not, how are you? The communication is, Inta Aish Yaba, are you alive, my son? Are you alive? Shame. In Gaza, the communication is, Rahu Lulad, Rahu Lulad, the kids are gone, the kids are gone. Shame. In Gaza, a young child says, where's mama? Where's my mother? Where's Baba? Where's my father? Shame! 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 We tell every single supposed leader or politician that you have blood stained on your hands. Netanyahu, you have blood stained on your hands. So in one voice, we say, shame, shame, Netanyahu. Shame, shame, Netanyahu. Netanyahu, you can't hide. Netanyahu, you can't hide. You're committing genocide. You're committing genocide. Netanyahu, you can't hide. Netanyahu, you can't hide. You're supporting genocide. You're supporting genocide. I would like to now introduce our next speaker, Ahmed Abdallah, who is originally from Gaza. He currently has family in Gaza. Right now, as we stand here, his family, all of our families, as we are Palestinian, all of our families are facing genocide. So please welcome Ahmed Abdallah.
I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respect to their elders past, present and emerging. This land was never ceded. This land was invaded, stolen, colonized and destroyed by foreigners who thought that their guns and fair color would give them superiority. Much like the story of the stolen land of Palestine. Once upon a time, Palestine was free. Once upon a time, from the river to the sea, Palestine thrived in freedom with all its Jewish, Christian, Muslim communities living side by side in love and harmony. Then came the invaders, from similar origin to those ones here, but only driven by this toxic ideology, Zionism. A late 19th century colonial national movement, adorning itself with biblical code, hijacking an entire religion to justify the replacement of one people with another. It's the same story of land theft, only with different names and different faces. The resemblance is just uncanny. No wonder Albanese always says that Australia shares common values with Israel. I've always struggled to understand what those values were, but I think I'm getting it now. Shame. As a Palestinian Australian from Gaza, seeing what's happening to families back home, listening to my nieces and nephews over the phone between tears trying to explain horrors and tragedies taking place in our neighborhood. A war crime, a genocide unfolding in front of their eyes. I've never felt more ashamed of our political establishment. I've never felt more ashamed of our political establishment, of our media, of our mainstream narrative. It shouldn't be surprising though, because it must have been those values that allowed Israel to continue with this criminal system of oppression, apartheid. And apartheid Israel has absolutely no right to exist. Absolutely no right to exist. Such a system of racial domination, dehumanization, humiliation of the Palestinians, this ongoing colonization of the land, the killing of lives and livelihoods, the longest military occupation in modern history. Decades upon decades, Palestinians have been calling the world to pay attention, to see their pain and suffering, to hear their story, to give them the permission to narrate. 75 years is a very long time to bear such an injustice, such an oppression. 16 years of besiegement, of destruction, of death and suffering is way too long to bear. Gaza was faltering in front of our eyes by the day. Shame. The biggest open air in the world, the biggest open air prison in the world. What the Western world wants us to do, even the left-leaning side of it, is to stay silent, keep acting the victim, and maybe, just maybe, one day things will miraculously change itself for us. The world has given up on us. They thought they can just ignore our struggle and pain. They thought we'll eventually cave in and give up. They thought the old will die and the young will forget. Well, they thought wrong. The Palestinians have risen. The Palestinians have risen from the rubbles of Gaza. Those generations who were brought up in and saw nothing but the siege, the destruction, the death, have said enough is enough. You see, the mere suggestion that resisting a colonizer and an occupier is an act of an unprovoked aggression is incredibly absurd and should be unequivocally rejected. Because colonization and occupation are inherently violent, oppressive, and provocative to all sorts of aggression. And violence can only breed violence. As an occupying power, Israel has absolutely no right to defend itself from the occupied. Occupation is the root cause of all aggression. It's always the oppressor, not the oppressed, who dictates the form of the struggle. I didn't say that. Nelson Mandela said that. He also said that if the oppressor uses violence, the oppressed have no alternative but to respond violently. And so, whenever there is a conversation about the atrocities that the Israel is perpetrating against the Palestinians in Gaza, there's always this seemingly confronting question. What about Hamas? This is one of the easiest political ploys pushed by Israel and its allies from the Western governments and the mainstream media. To demonize Hamas, to portray it as the main obstacle to peace in Palestine, to portray it as this fanatic, Islamist, bloodthirsty group that is hell-bent on the destruction of Israel and killing Jews. The truth is that Israel has engaged in oppressing, besieging, and blockading Gaza Strip long before Hamas was established in 1987. In their updated charter, Hamas has asserted the commitment to the 1967 border as the basis of a Palestinian state alongside Israel. And I quote, Hamas affirms that it does not wage a struggle against the Jews because they are Jewish, but wages a struggle against the Zionists who occupy Palestine. End of quote. These facts continue to be obscured by the Zionist propaganda machine of misinformation and disinformation. Shame. The same one that is suppressing the Palestinian narrative with the help of the mainstream media. The same mainstream media who the only reason they're here today is to look for any minor mishaps in this rally to use to vilify pro-Palestinian activism. Shame. This is the same mainstream media. This is the same mainstream media that implicitly and explicitly tries to indoctrinate our minds. There is an alternative equivalent. There is an equivalence between the victim and the criminal, between the occupier and the occupied, between the neck and the sword, as Ghassan Kanafani puts it so eloquently. In their fight against the Israeli colonial project, the Palestinians have exhausted all peaceful and civil means of resistance before resorting to the armed struggle, which is indeed a legitimate right under the international law, the same international law that is adhered to in Ukraine, but not in Palestine. Shame. The fact that matters is that Hamas is part of the Palestinian fabric, whether the Western society liked it or not. Yes, yes. Cheered by the Western society, Israel can try all it can to eradicate Hamas. And it may as well be able to achieve that. But neither Israel nor the West can never eradicate the idea of Hamas, the idea of resistance. For as long as colonization and apartheid are allowed to persist, the idea of resistance will always thrive. As long as Palestine is occupied, resistance will always be justified.
Israel, USA, how many kids have you killed today? Israel, USA, how many kids have you killed today? And I raise that chant because we know it's one of the great crimes, the great atrocities going on right now. Nearly half of the population of Gaza are under 18, our children. Israel is massacring thousands of children right now. And so our next two speakers are Palestinian children themselves. They've just recently returned from Palestine. They've seen what's going on, and they're going to talk to us now about the situation there. So this is Hala and Rani Saroha.
I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and pay my respects to the elders both past and present. Hi, my name is Hannah Sawata. And my name is Lani Sawata. We're Palestinian Australian twin sisters who come from the beautiful city of Nablus in the West Bank. Just 2 weeks ago, we were able to travel to Nablus after for years, hoping to connect with our roots and reunite with family. Except the experience wasn't how we expected. We hoped for a heartfelt connection to our homeland, but instead we felt fear, worry, and sadness. The way we were treated, guns pointed at us, going through several checkpoints, the sound of Israeli tanks constantly near, being denied entry into Jerusalem for being Palestinian, when all we wanted to do was play in Al-Aqsa Mosque. We felt the weight of oppression weighing down on us, and it occurred to us that the things we were experiencing for a couple of weeks was something the people of Palestine experience in their everyday lives. It was so hard to believe. A place which was once a land of freedom, hope, and opportunity was now a place of constant oppression. This brought us to a realization that what we were experiencing was only a fraction of what the people in Gaza endure every single day. They're living in a modern-day concentration camp. The cries for medical aid, the cries for shelter, the cries for water, the cries for food, the cries for help, and the silence of the world. Children have been killed, severely injured, exposed to violence and scarcity of food and water. Following countless days of airstrikes, life in Gaza is terror. I can't understand how children with such small bodies can bear these huge missiles. I can't understand how nobody does anything to help them. The people of Gaza deserve to live. Every day, the children of Gaza pray to see the light of another day. The siege of Gaza needs to be lifted, and the occupation of Palestine must end today. Children and teenagers are now living through their fourth war. They have lived their entire lives under Israeli blockade, with restrictions on movement, patrolling of naval tanks, military aircraft, and surveillance drones. The Israeli Defense Minister describes them as beastly people. Behind all the propaganda are people with real dreams and real hopes. Children who want to go to school and play with their friends. Parents who want to be able to provide for their families. Grandparents who want to watch their families grow. Our sympathy should not end with words, but with actions. We can support humanitarian organizations, use social media platforms so the world knows the truth, donate and protest. The people of Gaza are not alone. Their stories are our stories. Their dreams are our dreams. Their hopes and dreams should inspire us to work towards a world where every child, teenager and adult can live in peace and dignity. Stop the bombing. Stop the oppression. They say the old will die and the young will forget, but that's not what they're gonna get. Today, we are here to stand for a free Palestine. So let us raise our voices in unity and make the message clear. The time for change is now. From the river to the sea, Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Okay, everyone, can we please introduce our next speaker? Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Can we please introduce our next speaker, Michelle Burkon from Jews Against the Occupation Rotation?
I speak on behalf of two Jewish groups who have spent long years campaigning for Palestine. We defy Israel's claims on our Jewish identity and exploitation of our history. We stand in solidarity with our Palestinian sisters and brothers demanding freedom and justice in Palestine. The media is debating who dropped this bomb, who fired that rocket. It doesn't matter. What matters is that people were killed in what they had every right to believe was a sanctuary. What matters is that people throughout Gaza are being killed in their thousands and traumatized in their tens of thousands. Even in the horrendous conditions of their lives, the people of Gaza have a right to sanctuary in their own homes. And we do know whose name is on the high-tech weaponry raining from the skies and on the soon-to-be unleashed on the ground. I will never condone the violation of any human being's inalienable right to a secure life and a dignified death, but we must be clear. The root cause of the conflagration of violence and misery engulfing everyone between the river and the sea is Israel's sustained and illegal occupation of Palestinian land. From the savagery in Kfar Aza to the carnage in Gaza, the demonisation of decades of Palestinian non-violent resistance has borne its deadly fruit. We all know that the creator of the pressure cooker of deprivation and hopelessness that is Gaza is in Israel's inhuman and illegal 16-year siege. We know that the fomenter of rage in the West Bank is Israel's military occupation, its settlements, checkpoints, illegal wall, detention without trial, torture, imprisonment of children, house demolitions, water apartheid, uprooting of olive trees, and everyday harassment. We also know that Israel has a history of denial and duplicity. Without shame, it violates humanitarian law, then calls for censure of anyone who objects. Without remorse, it calibrates its actions to enable plausible deniability, then claims victimhood. Why then should we doubt its capacity to commit any heinous crime and then lie about it? It has been argued that all Hamas has to do is release the hostages and Israel will turn back on the water. Have these people lost their minds? Even if collective punishment was not a raw crime, depriving anybody of drinking water shows a heart of unfathomable darkness. It has been argued that protesting in support of Palestinian lives will divide the Australian community. What rubbish! What divides us is consolation given to one grieving community and not another. Silence! Silence in the face of a most powerful nation's violations of international law, but loud condemnation of a dispossessed people's efforts to assert their most basic human and national rights. In demanding an immediate ceasefire, an immediate lifting of the blockade and an end to Israel's occupation of Palestine, we are insisting that we are all united in our belief in equality and justice for everyone. In our thousands, in our millions, we are all Palestinians.
One more speaker, and then we're going to take to the streets. So our final speaker is Jenny Leon. She's a Greens MP from here in New South Wales. One of the few people who have stood up in Parliament, the Greens, to not go along with the appalling stance that the Australian government has taken in support of Israel. So we salute the Greens for their stance, and we also salute them for helping to defend us, win the right to protest here today. So thank you, Jenny.
Thank you so much, and thanks Sydney for coming out. I want to acknowledge that we're here on the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation and thank Linda June Coe and all of the First Nations Black Caucus for their acknowledgement and welcome to this country. to Gaza. We must all be free. Let me reassure the New South Wales Police, who are eager for us to get marching, that this is the final speech here, and we will be marching as soon as we finish speaking here. There are so many people. Be careful and look after each other. 2 weeks ago, when we disgracefully saw the iconic buildings like the Opera House lit up in blue and white, the colours of the state that had already been found to be practicing apartheid, the colours of a state that at the time was using dehumanising language against Palestinians, the colours of a state that is now waging war crimes and genocidal bombs on the people of Gaza. Those of us who have known and have known, and those of you in the crowd who have witnessed the devastation when the oppressor seeks to rise up and wage war, we watched in disbelief as the so-called political leaders took a side. They claimed that Israeli had the right to self-defence. The Premier and the Prime Minister of Australia must be held to account. They must be held to account for backing in the so-called self-defence of Israel. It is unacceptable. History did not begin on October 7. There is a long and torturous history of Palestinian dispossession since 1947. For the last 16 years, Palestinians have been effectively caged in an open-air prison as Israel has controlled all movement of people and goods out of Gaza. When Gaza's embarked in peaceful protests like we are doing right now along the border in the so-called March for Home, snipers shot at them to kill them and bang their legs. We all know that the majority of population in Gaza is children. We know the horrifying impacts that denial of water and food is having. And today, Amnesty International released disturbing investigations talking of the most horrific eyewitness accounts happening in Gaza right now. The words and the horrifying, the words terrifying, the words devastating do not come close to what is happening right now in Gaza. And yet we have the Prime Minister and the Premier backing them in under the guise of self-defence. There is no justification for war crimes. There is no justification for genocide. And while those in power from the US to Australia seek to pretend they speak for us, the thousands on the street in Sydney today and the millions marching around the globe make it clear that they do not speak for us. They do not speak for us. And locally we have seen statements from Amnesty International, from the Council for Civil Liberties, from trade unions like the NTEU and the Teachers Federation. We have seen statements from people in support of Palestine.
This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters Live service. This is the primary audio circuit for the Reuters Live service.